Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You've heard the old saying that style maketh the man, but you know what? It can also make the TV show. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I am the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I will go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are listening, please keep listening and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, gives you a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would appreciate it. Absolutely, we would. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on the Letterboxd, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Threads, the Blue Sky. I lose track. There's too many. But we're in the seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we live to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it all that much more when we come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness, come on by and pay us a visit. It's appreciated. On this episode, we're diving into yet more Emmy consideration coverage for all the behind the scenes people who are clamoring to try to get nominated for their work. On this episode, we're diving into the hit Apple show Severance, and we're having a great conversation with the costume designer Sarah Edwards, and we talked a little bit about just sort of working on a show like this and crafting the right feel and look, and how creatively involved she has to be from the get-go, and just sort of the minutia they're in, just really getting an understanding of how vital costume is, not only to the character, but just to the overall look of the show as well. And I mean, obviously, if you've seen Severance, people are dressed pretty uniquely, and I mean, there's definitely a lot of ways for not only actors and characters, but from a storyline standpoint, for this to really almost add to the vibe and the world of it all. But I'm a big fan of Severance too, so I mean, obviously, if you haven't got a chance to check it out, they just had their season 2 right now, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming. But we had a lot of fun with that, and it's on Apple TV Plus. Go sign up, check it out. Like I said, it's one of the best streaming platforms out there with all so many good shows. But first, enjoy our talk with costume designer Sarah Edwards as we dive into the minutia of the costume, and hope she gets nominated for an Emmy, because she deserves it. It's a great show, and it's an even better conversation with Sarah. So please enjoy. All right, well, Sarah, just first to kick this off, I mean, I just want to say thank you so much for the time today, and I mean, congratulations on your work on Severance.
Thank thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Well, I mean, I guess my first question is like, I'm always curious on how you come onto a job like this, because I can imagine, just given the nature of the show and what feels like coming in with sort of a limited color wheel, like you kind of have to sort of be on board creatively, sort of from the start. This isn't a job where they can just sort of drop you in the middle.
No, not exactly. I guess, I've worked with Ben Stiller on and off since probably, I don't know, 2010, something
Hmm.
like that. And it's funny, I had reached out to him about having a coffee because he had recently moved into my neighborhood, and he said, "Yeah, actually, I want to talk to you about something." And I met with him in November of 2019, and he said, I don't, I know you don't usually do TV, but I'm going to do this series, and it's really interesting, and I'd really love for you to read it and to meet Jessica Lee Gagne, who was the DP. They had just done Danamora together, which I did not do. And they sort of said, he said, "Do you have time to come and do this?" Sure. So I went and I met with him, and it was a really great script. And I said, "Sure, I'd love to do this with you." And he said, great, let's have another conceptual meeting next week with Jeremy Hindle, the production designer. So we all met up at a restaurant downtown and started talking about sort of how to make this world interesting. It's an office story. What could we do that would be visually exciting? And, how could we support this really interesting script? And, you know, I can't believe it, but that was November 2019, and I don't think we wrapped until 4.5 years later
Wow.
because of COVID and the writers and the actors strikes. So, I never imagined when I went for that coffee that I was signing up for basically almost 5 years of my life on this show. But every step of the way was kind of like that. We never lost that kind of small room feeling. I mean, it was every department head would get together for, every episode, we would get together and we would meet and everyone would talk about what their ideas were from their perspective. I always just say the world according to my department. And we would kind of build this world and I've said this before, but not try to retrofit things, try to actually like build it together. And it's very unusual, especially in television, to have the time and the space and kind of the camaraderie, even. We all liked each other so much. It was
Yeah.
really fun for everybody. We got to kind of everyone got to have an idea, even if it wasn't your department, which was extremely nice too. Like you could just talk about uh, the show as a whole, and everybody's ideas were listened to and respected. And that just happened so rarely. It was really a privilege.
Now, I'm curious, how does a job like this change for you, I guess, maybe on a creative standpoint? Because again, just the nature of the look and the feel of the show, it feels like almost like you're trying to play a game of cards with half a deck, if that makes any kind of sense. Like you're like, you've removed part of your color wheel and it's like, okay, go.
Yes. And I would say that's true. And I've talked about that. We were all the cool side of the color wheel. That was the palette. We
Right.
don't really generally like warm colors. We like cool. The cool side of the color was blue, green, violet, all those cool colors, and a little desaturated almost in a strange
Hmm.
way. So it's definitely kind of almost the opposite of doing a broad comedy. Our world was very minimal, cool, uh, and slightly austere, even.
How how in depth do you get to go with the actors to be able to give everyone sort of their own specific look? Like I said, especially when you're playing with half the color wheel.
Well, I mean, I feel like the more limitations that are put on me in a funny way, the more creative I can be.
Mm.
Um, it sort of like takes away a lot of the noise. You can only deal with these things. Um, as far as the actors, for me, the actor collaboration is a huge part of things. I would say initially it was kind of getting the actors up to speed because we had all been prepping this for months. And then we get to the point of fitting the actors and they're just coming on board, kind of. So a lot of it was sort of explaining to them what the world was, what the palette was, how I thought I might be able to help achieve that. And then, you know, talking about how they saw the characters and how they were going to play the characters and how we could take all these things and put them together so that we were true to the design, but also true to each character.
Now I'm curious, how technically in the weeds do you have to go on something like this, especially with like your production design and even the DPs? Because I mean, I can imagine there are concerns of, okay, no, that character can't wear this shirt because he's going to be in this room and the color of the wall is going to be that, and so on and so forth.
There definitely is an element of that. I mean, I think for to kind of know a lot of those variables going into it. So it was all very planned out. I mean, it wasn't haphazard, really. This is not a show where we just were like, oh, they're flying that actor in tomorrow morning and we got to go get something now. We made all the clothes mostly
Mm,
because the idea, it was almost like doing a period movie with no period. The idea was that it was kind of hard to
I
say
like that.
where
I
we
like that.
were. Hard to say where we were, both in time and place. Where are we? What town is this? What year is it? Is this an alternate reality? Is this like really just like Ben was really clear that he wanted that to be difficult to read, and then working with Jeremy and David Schlesinger, set decorator, and Kat Miller, props, and Jessica Lee again. Yeah, they all there were a lot of retro influences. If you look at the computers, a lot of mid-century. So it was like, how do we make the clothes belong to this world? So I didn't want to do anything that felt trendy or of the moment. So then I went and looked at mid-century clothes and thought, how can we take these clothes and take away so many of the details that in some way they're so hyper minimal that we can take a period silhouette and almost make it look modern. And that was the sort of jumping off point for me, is like, let's try to do that because then we won't really ever know where we are.
And then subsequently, is it a little surreal for you to sort of have this show that almost exists out of time to sort of be
Well,
creating
I
a style
loved
now in
it.
pop culture?
I thought it was so interesting to work on. I really enjoyed it. I loved the process. I loved kind of taking beautiful older things and kind of modernizing them, bringing them into a different place, using them differently.
How does the job change for you, especially when it's a run of a show? Because I mean, I can imagine, when you're shooting a movie or you're shooting, anything else, it's going to be sort of things happening, sort of in either different scenarios or something happening over like a distinct set of time. How does like is there a level of consistency or a level of sort of I'm looking for the right word here, but I mean it definitely feels like there's going to be a
It's not
variation.
repetitive, if that's what you
Right.
mean.
Okay. Yeah, I think
It's
so. Yeah.
not, every episode has its own character, and often it has its own location. I mean, even like for episode 208, we went to Newfoundland and we shot that whole episode in Newfoundland and with people who, we took very few actors with us, Patricia Arquette, of course. But we cast actors that never work anywhere else. It's like a capsule. It's like that episode was a like stand on its own kind of a origin story for Cobell's character. Um, and so therefore, that was that world. Then we had, like, for example, the mammalian episode, which takes place mostly in mammalians, which was another huge world that was created and had to figure out who would these people who take care of the goats be. So, you know, and then we had the weekend retreat where everybody's in the snow, retracing Keir and Dieter Egan's footsteps in these sort of Victorian inspired costumes. And there was that world. So it's not like a television show where, okay, we have this actor's closet together. And so in the next episode, we'll just switch it up. They'll wear this tie with this shirt and this suit, and we'll get a new
Right.
pair of pants. It couldn't never work that way because we were doing some crazy world for almost every episode.
Is the creative payoff more in this where you're sort of building from the ground up versus something you did sort of in your early days, like Last Days of Disco, where I'm sure you probably had to go through every retro shop in town to find the right dress, the right look?
Yes, and that's also sort of being faithful to the period. That's a
Right.
period. So you're doing a
Yes.
period movie, you're following, you're using vintage clothing, you're using it exactly, or you're making clothing that is based on very correct research. I didn't have those rules because we weren't doing a period movie. It's not a period movie. I mean, it's not a period show, sorry, a period television
Oh
show.
yeah.
It's actually a modern show, but it isn't, but it has to exist in an alternate reality somewhere. So it's
No,
completely
100%.
different doing a period movie. We
No,
use
agreed.
we use
Agreed.
modern clothes mixed in with the clothes that we make that are made to be kind of ambiguous about where we are in time.
No, but I mean, I guess my question is it more creatively engaging for you to have rules like a period piece or something like Severance where you can kind of
Well,
throw the rules
I
out the window?
I would say it's more creative to have to make something up, and also
Right,
maybe the word I would use wouldn't be creative. It's harder. It's much harder to make up a world that doesn't exist than it is to, faithfully follow and find period things. Although that's very challenging too, especially the further back you go in time, the less available things are to rent, and
right,
you really are having to recreate them. But you're recreating something that existed, you're not making it up.
right, right. Okay. Now I'm curious, ultimately, what got you into costume design? Because obviously, to make film, television, what have you, it takes a village. Like, what was it about sort of
It takes
this
a huge
sort
village.
of lane of the
Uh,
business?
um, You know, my parents were both in the theater growing up, and I say it's like the mafia. I tried to get out. They pulled me back in. My first summer jobs were when I was 16. I worked at the Public Theater in the costume shop when they used to have the costume shop across the street from the Public Theater in New York City. Um, I was spray painting pink shoes for sugar babies in a cage, and walking Linda Ronstadt's dog while she was having a fitting for Pirates at Penzance, and I got paid $99 a week. uh, and then I thought I was going to be an artist, and I went to college, a 4-year college, and I graduated with a fine arts degree. And then I somehow just I couldn't I had the bug. I just went back into it.
Love it. Love it. Now, I mean, just put a bow on this. I'm curious. At the end of the day, because I mean, other jobs will come up, other opportunities, but it definitely feels like Severance is going to be sort of those one of one moments. I mean, how are you going to sort of ultimately look back at sort of the work you got to do on this show that obviously Ben has put together and is really, at least from my perspective, one of those one of one kind of moments, especially when it comes to pop culture.
Yeah, I'm just amazing. I find the work so amazing, and I feel so grateful to have been a part of it and to have been part of that team, and I loved it. And I you know, hope that maybe Ben can do another project where we can have this same kind of experience. But it is highly unusual, I have to say. And I think somehow COVID and the strikes and all that, in a weird way, contributed to like the insular world that was created with the department heads. And I
Yeah.
really hope I'll have that opportunity again. But I am very aware of how unique it was and how special it was. It was so special.
There are no other shows out there that were so born out, sort of creatively born out of COVID. And I mean, I think this is one of them for sure.
It
But I mean,
definitely, it definitely was. And it also really dictated what we could do, because in the beginning, we were so limited in how many people we could have, in where we could go. Everything was so locked down when we started shooting season one, that it just kind of it came across on screen somehow. I don't know. I feel like it contributed to the feeling and the mood.
it did that and then some. That's what good TV and movies do. But I mean, Sarah, just again, thank you for the work and thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this. Thanks for the insight.
Uh, it was really a pleasure. Thank you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.